Welcome back to another episode of CIO Water Cooler TV. My name is Neil C. Hughes, and today I'm going to be joined by Paul Martin from Kindrel, where they help design, build, manage and modernise the mission-critical technology systems that the world depends on every single day. So to begin with, thanks for joining me today, Paul.
Nice to be here, Neil.
So for people hearing about Kindrel for the very first time, can I ask you set the scene and tell everyone listening a little bit about the kind of problems that you're helping businesses solve, and also what makes you a little bit different from other solutions out there?
Okay, no, we can do that. I mean, obviously we've been living the Kindrel launch over the last 6 months or so it's very familiar to us. But I should just explain. I mean, obviously we come from a background of a division from IBM, which got spun off. But since that, we have done an enormous amount of transformation of trying to decide what it is we are as a company, both from a cultural perspective on what we're trying to achieve, and talking to clients. And all the clients we talk to, all the customers we talk to, they've got the same message, which is we have got so much to do, right? We need to be moving forwards. We need to be transforming. We need to be providing the essential platform for our businesses to transform, right? And we need help. And I think what Kindrel brings to the table is, first of all, we understand the background, we understand what's gone before, and yet we also embrace and we really understand what can be done in the future and new ways of delivering IT and transforming IT. Equally, we understand the need for agility and for speed and for business relevance. But at the same time, we've got that background of understanding that this IT has to carry on working. It has to be resilient. It has to be secure. So effectively, we're looking in two directions at the same time in both of those scenarios. And I think that presents us in the market as somebody who really can put their arm around the shoulders of people who need help. We can work together on gaining that transformation, indeed to be the heart of progress.
I love that. And I think so many businesses are battling with the delicate balance between agility, resilience and security right now. And I'm curious, from the conversations that you're having with your customers, are there any trends around the kind of scenarios that you're repeatedly seeing and how overwhelming many are currently finding it as a result?
Well, they're certainly finding it overwhelming. That's absolutely the case. And you're right to pick up those issues, but let's take a step further back and say, what has changed over the last 2 or 3 years? Now, it was always the case, really, for the last 20 years, that IT has been at the core of what businesses do. Now, IT is just the business, and the business is IT in every single area. If you go to a retailer, if they don't have the right retail platform, they don't have a service which is there and is able, to provide trading 24 hours a day, then they're not meeting the business need that they've got. So the IT is now so closely linked with what the business is doing. So the reason you do IT transformation is entirely driven by the business and the board, because they want to be more agile, right? Or they need to be more agile. They need to be able to buy companies and have them integrated into the core processes of the company really quickly, or they need to be able to spin parts of the business off and for IT to be able to cope with that and actually enable it to happen, right? But they also need to go back to what I was saying about resiliency and security and control. So yes, there's pressures from outside to make sure that happens. But as a business, if you lose your platform for a day or a week or whatever, it's not now the case that you can just go to a different channel and business will still happen and people will still come back to you. That affects your brand forever, right? So they just can't afford that to happen. So this is this idea of the business being IT and IT being the business. And I think that boards are now really switched on to the fact that this is reality, right? And you're seeing CIOs properly being on boards with a proper voice, right? In the same way that the head of sales and the head of marketing would be on that board as well. Together, they're determining how that business could move forward and how they can transform and how they can live in this digital world. So those trends are, are there. I'm seeing less actually people going, oh, I need to save 20% from my budget, which was a very common conversation before. It doesn't mean that that financial constraint isn't still there. And I am hearing that more with things like the cost of the utilities that I need to provide it because I've got my own data center, and that isn't great, right? So money is still there, but it's this balance really of agility against control, which is really the debate that I sort of feel out there. And then the final thing I just comment on there is, look, we know we can't do this ourselves, right? So what should we be doing? Should we be concentrating on keeping the show on the road and then asking somebody to come and help do the transformational change programs? Or should we be asking somebody to come in and run business as usual to enable us ourselves to do that transformational journey? And you know what? I don't think there's a right answer to that, right? But it's something that you've got to consider, because it is absolutely the case that you won't be able to do everything yourselves. And I'm not sure there's enough people in the market at all to do everything that all our customers want to do at this point in time, because there's so much demand out there. So the thing that really is going to stop people transforming is actually the ability to get the key resources that you need to make that transformation happen, right? And that I think is something which is the principal concern that CIOs have in their head at the moment.
And there were so many great points in there. And I would imagine those words are resonating with CIOs listening all over the world, because it is such a common theme we're having at the moment. But of course, I'm going to put you on the spot here. The big question is, what is the secret to creating a how-to strategy? I think because everybody knows what the problem is. The next thing is, what do we do next?
Okay. I mean, there's no big answer to the big
Yeah.
question. So I think one thing that is important is you need to listen to your business, listen to the board, try and work out actually what it is that they are looking to achieve in the business, right? Mm-hmm. And be very honest with them about what you can and can't do, right? Because I think that people are kind of over promising what the art of the possible is.
Yeah.
And then I would say, and maybe I would, but I would say you need to talk to people who've got ideas, but more than that, people who have lived through this. So in my team, I love to have people who've got scars, right? Mm. They've tried to do something, it hasn't worked. What have they learned from that experience? What is it that they know now that they have to do? And if you buy into those key people being there to offer advice, who've been there, done that, right? Then everything kind of follows, I think, behind that. But think of it as a holistic approach that you need to adopt. One thing I would say, right, and we're seeing quite a lot of clients who've done something and it's not really worked.
Yeah.
They've tried to be more agile, but parts of their organization have held them back. They've moved to third-party service providers who are providing really good service, but it's a diverse set of suppliers, and they no longer have a sort of visibility of the overall IT management that they need to keep control of. And I think the reason for that is because they haven't taken a step back and thought about a 5-year strategy or a 10-year strategy, right? Which seems miles away. What they've been doing is going, okay, we need to put something on a cloud, so let's go and do this. And they haven't really thought the whole story through. Mm. So maybe now is the time, with the business pressures being put on them to get all of this in balance, take a step back, just a month or so, revisit what you're trying to achieve, what the board is demanding of you, come up with a new approach, communicate that across everybody within the business, because they need to understand what's going on, right? And because it is so important to that overall transformation.
And just to bring to life everything that we're talking about here, is there any use cases or client stories that you could possibly share? Just help everybody watching how all this might work in their world too.
Okay, so let's just pick up maybe some small examples, not mentioning any names. So talking to a retail client a couple of weeks ago, and they're stuck. And the reason they're stuck is because they haven't invested over the last 5 or maybe even 10 years into re-engineering what they've got. And now the disconnect between the IT and the vision of the company is so far removed that IT is just seen as this massive impediment to enable the company to progress. And the end result of that, sadly, is that that company is really struggling from a commercial perspective, and not able to do any of the things that it wants to achieve. So, in that scenario, you've got somebody who really hasn't been looking forward enough, right? There's been too looking at the budgets that they've got, of course, difficult to avoid, but not really doing anything to drive forward. So that's kind of one extreme. Just take that to another level, where you've got a company that has gone full scale into full DevOps type mentality, cultural mentality, and they've put as much as they possibly can on all sorts of different cloud infrastructure, both from an infrastructure as a service, but also as a platform as a service, and even as software as a service. And they're now getting to the point where they're saying, okay, we've got this key business process that we need to be able to make sure is working. And we've got absolutely no way of bringing that as a single strand across all of these different platforms that we've got. So we don't actually know if something goes wrong, where that fault is. And I think this is twisting some of the service management type mindset we've got, where we've got to think more about end-to-end processes rather than thinking of sort of individual towers, because we're going to use so many more individual towers that we need to sort of revitalize that mindset. So two different companies have gone really the opposite extreme, one forward, one backwards, but they both got to the point now where they need to take that step back, have a think about what it is they want to try and achieve, and try and do it more in a holistic way, so that you're getting the technology, but also the people and the culture of the company to progress at the same time.
Now, although you are a tech company, one of the things that really stands out for me is how you build everything around a company culture and people. So can you tell me more about this and why you're so passionate about putting people in the heart of progress?
Absolutely. No. And I think you're absolutely right. Kindrel is, it really is entirely a people company. And I think that's wonderful, right? And, I think that what people buy from us, yes, they buy the company, yes, they buy the processes, but they're actually buying the people that look after them, and that's key. I mentioned that part about I wanting people with scars because they've been there, done that. Yeah. They're practitioners, right? That's what they're about. They're able to offer advice to clients based on the experience that they've gained, and I think that's absolutely key. But as a company as a whole, we are very much about respecting the people who are in the company. We acknowledge the fact that that's what our customers are wanting, right? So we go back to what I said earlier on, actually, Neil, which about the absolute key thing that CIOs are facing as an issue, which is how do I get the key people to change what we're doing to transform us, to move us forward, right? And it really is the key people that's what you need. Maybe that's the senior architect, the consultant, the program manager, because they will make a difference. And I think in recognizing us as a company which is based entirely around people, right? That's our strength, right? That's what we're bringing to the market.
And I think looking to the future, many businesses will have one eye on their responsibilities towards sustainability and ESG, environmental, social, and governance. So I'm curious, what do you think that means for business leaders and indeed yourselves at Kindrel?
Mm. So I would just draw on a bit of a survey that we did quite recently, which I found quite surprising. Um, because normally when you do surveys, you kind of get a normal distribution curve where most people are in the middle saying, yeah, that's kind of important, with some outliers saying, mega important, other people not caring. When we did that same question around the whole ESG debate, we kind of got more of a inverted normal distribution curve where for some companies, it clearly was absolutely the key to what they were trying to achieve. And they wanted to work with partners who were bought into that. And for a lot of people, actually more people, that whole ESG debate hadn't even really got to prominence. So, I mean, reflecting on that, first of all, I think that there will be a hell of a lot more people who are moving it up into the high agenda level. And they will be doing that both from because they wanted to, well, they agree with that culture. And how can't you? But that becomes more important to what the company is about. But also because economic reality is going to strike home as well. And if you look at the increase in utility costs of traditional data centers, that's a reason also to embrace where we're going in this area. So, I mean, as an organization, Kindrel very much wants to be part of that journey, okay, that our clients are going through. We want to be able to help clients understand where they are and help them understand what options they might move forward. But I think ultimately that's one that's got to be driven by the board, cultural change within their organization, with IT being an incredibly important part of what they can achieve. And I think it would be wonderful if we can help in some small way people sort of provide their IT in a better way for the environment. That would be a great thing for the company to achieve.
So many big talking points there, and so much of your words will resonate with CIOs listening. And I'd love to hear more about their thoughts on what they thought of everything today. But more than anything, just a big thank you, Paul, for sharing your insights today.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for asking. It's a joy to talk to you, Neil. So thank you.
Thank you.